Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Power Hour session. My name is Angela Fullwood, and I am the Supervisor for Family and Community Engagement with Hillsborough County Public Schools. And with us tonight, we have these seminars that we do, these financial seminars that we do with our partnership with Suncoast Credit Union. And tonight we have Janeishla. Janeishla, that's a beautiful name. And she is a member solutions. She works in member solutions. So if you have problems, she has the solution. So with us, thank you and welcome, Janeishla.
Hi guys, nice to meet you and thank you guys for joining. My name is Janice Ruiz and I've been with Sancos for 3 years. I work for Member Solutions, so basically we are the ones that handled any type of delinquency and we try to offer you guys help. So this is kind of like my area. But I'm going to be presenting financial first aid, and if you guys have any questions, drop them in the Q&A bottom area and she'll be reading it to me. Let's get started. So we first have, let's see here, consequences of ignoring your bills. So sometimes when we have financial issues, we tend to not open our bills or notices, and that has consequences. So sometimes it could be a higher interest rate. It could go from a 9% to a 13% just because it's past due. Late charges are accumulating based on your balance sometimes. Sometimes you get late charges just when you're past due more than 5 days. Your credit report damage. So basically, anytime you're past due, it gets reported to your credit and your credit goes down. And that is something that is very important when it comes to loans or any type of responsibility with credit. Repossession is for your vehicles whenever you're past due on your vehicles. For example, in Suncoast Credit Union, when you're past due more than 60 days, it does go to repo assigned. What that means is that a towing company picks up your car and it can be sold within 10 business days. That is something that we tried over here in Member Solutions, try to avoid the most, because if they sell your car, you won't have a vehicle anymore. Loss of services could be like if you, let's say you charge off, you won't be able to use your services with Suncoast, you will lose your account. A lot of people only have one bank. Some people have multiple banks, but some people also only have one creditor, and it can be very hard for them whenever they lose that account. And wages or garnishment is whenever, let's say if it's reported, it could be taken off from the courts and they can wage your garnishment. Whenever you're going through a situation, you have to take action. So the first step is review and adjust your budgets. What that means is you can review your list of expenses throughout the month. Personally, I do is I check all that I spent last month, and if I spend a little bit more than usual, I'll see why. And I try to budget to where I don't make it again next month, to where it puts me down more negative in my account. Prioritize your bills is the second action. That is whenever something is more important: mortgages, car loans, um, something that's your main thing. Like we need a home, we need groceries. Those type of bills are your priority. And then communicate with your creditors. And that comes from Member Solutions. If you communicate with us, for example, we can try to give you extensions. We can do a payment arrangement. Sometimes creditors will do the most they can just because they don't want to lose that account or go to collections or have a higher delinquency. So they always try to help you. Does anybody have any questions yet? No? Okay. Access income. What is your current source of income? So when you get paid every 2 weeks or a week, you have to know exactly how much you get. Sometimes what I do, for example, is if I get paid the same thing every 2 weeks, I try to take out $100 from that every 2 weeks, just in case you don't go to work one day, um, and see what is your actual income. And you can see what can you do to increase that income. You can rent an outer room. That's something that sometimes people are mostly sometimes are doing right now. Get a part-time job, work overtime. I know that sometimes it's harder whenever you go and get another job. So that's something a little bit more complicated, but you can also work overtime. Reduce tax withholding if usual gets refund. apply for benefits like unemployment, insurance, food stamps if you're eligible. Whenever sometimes you lose an income, you might be eligible to apply for assistance from the government. That does help a lot of people. What assets do you have? So you should liquidize assets, weight cost, specific benefits. That's just letting you know, okay, what you have, can you what do you use most of your money, and then what are the benefits? You should always consult with professional. You might be able to borrow from those assets. So, like your home, if your home has equity, you can see if you can borrow from it. But keep in mind that is also something else that you have to pay back. So, because you take assets out of your home equity, doesn't mean that you're going to get it for free. It's also going to be another payment. It might help you, it might be less. So, you do have to do a full list of what you're spending, of what you're going to pay off, how much is your new payment going to be. So that's something that you should really consult with a professional before doing, because sometimes people look at it as a home equity. Okay, my home has $20,000 more than when I bought it. I can just refinance and get it out. Then that's another payment that you have to do. Assets expenses. What are your current expenses? You should do a list of what you are your expenses. So most of the times I do what I spend every month, and I do a list, even if it's truthfully, I do it every 2 weeks because I get paid every 2 weeks. So I truthfully just write down all I have to expend and what I'm going to pay. What are your true necessities? So water, if you pay water, light, groceries, mortgage, car payment, cell phone bill, things that you need, you can write that down as your expenses, which can be reduced or eliminated or postponed or substituted. So let's say, like for example, Netflix. Sometimes you can stop, postpone it because it's not something that you truly need. Um, Most people don't have cable anymore, but if you can put that down, that's $24 last a month. Or maybe going out to eat every Friday night, you can reduce that to maybe once a night. Those things will help you in the long run because those will save you, at least depending on how much you spend, $60, $100 every Friday. Asset debt. So you will list your mortgage, your car loans, student loans, credit cards, personal loans, back taxes if you haven't paid your taxes, and any type of debt. Make sure your information is up to date. So make sure that before you do this list, you check your mail, you check your creditors, and you see what's the total balance. Sometimes when you're past due in an account, there could be interest accumulated, and maybe the balance that shows of $100 might have accumulated to $200 with interest. Um, Also, always make sure that you search those cards that you don't really use, but you might have used in the back, because sometimes those also accumulate interest, accumulate fees, and sometimes it's a higher balance than what you thought it was 3 months ago. Once you do that list, you'll know the total amount of debt that you have, and you can try to see where can you attack first. So what can you pay first? What can you bring down first? So review your financial position, the total income, net income, so how much you make a month. You're going to put your expenses, and you're going to do your total debt payments, and it should equal monthly surplus or shortage. So you will put, let's say, 2,000 as your net income. You'll put your expenses are $1,200, and then your total debt payments. Let's say your debt payments are $300, and it will be what you owe. List of mortgages. This example, what you will put there, you put the list of mortgages, your car loan, your student loans, credit cards, personal loans, back taxes, and other debt. Just like I said before, make sure you always call them, because sometimes it will not be the same thing that you thought it was about 3 months ago. Once you do that list, you have a better understanding of what you really owe and what you can afford. Prioritizing your expenses. Determine what is most important. So you have to determine and really sit back whenever you go into a financial hardship. What are the bills that you really, really need? Bills that enable you to take care of essential needs such as mortgage, rent, basic utilities, and medical insurance. Bills of which potentially for non-payment can be served, child support and back taxes. Those things are Very important because let's say child support, it's something that can go into court as well as taxes. It's something that we think is the most priority. Your mortgage, your rent, your basic utilities, and your medical insurance, as well as child support or any back taxes. Once you have an idea of your priority expenses, you'll be able to really sit down and see what can you do and what you can pay. And you always communicate with your creditors, especially with mortgages. Sometimes when you rent from somebody, you can talk to them, let them know what's going on, and they can also help you. Creditor communication tips. So here are some tips that we recommend. Be specific and honest about your reason for hardship. Whenever I, for example, I work with this every day. So whenever I have a member call me and tell me what's going on, I can base it off of their hardship or what assistance I can do. For example, if they lost their job, an extension will be the first thing of 90 days. I can tell them, hey, I can apply for an extension of 90 days. However, let's say it was a loss of income, like a big amount of income, is the only spouse working, we can try to do an auto forbearance, which is it's something completely different than extension. So you have to be honest about your hardship because the creditors most likely will always have an option for each type of hardship. Have a plan for the future. So you be sure that you tell them, hey, I lost my job today. However, I plan on getting a new one. I'm have two appointments for interviews already set up. I have a friend that's going to be helping me have a side hustle. Anything that you have, make sure you tell your creditors because that is something that can help you for your future and for your decision. Remain calm and polite. Whenever you spoke to a creditor, it's very important that we understand you're very frustrated and you are going through a very hardship. We all go through it. It's not something that just doesn't happen to people that work for a bank. So you have to remain calm, polite, so that way they can help you and really, really listen to you. Sometimes we get very angry and we don't know how to express our feelings. All we can say is, I can't pay, I can't pay. But then the person is asking you, what can we do? What do you need? And because you're so angry, you don't listen. Don't make promises you can't keep. This is something that's very, 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 very important when it comes to payment arrangements because it is something that is written down. It is something that we see whenever let's say you call 2 years from now. Well, she had three promises to pay. She broke all of them. That will determine if we can trust you or we cannot trust you. It's something that is very, very important because if you know you can't pay $200 in a week, don't say $200. Maybe you can pay $50. I can pay $50 in 2 weeks. That at least will give the creditor that you're being honest, you are really wanting to work this out, and you do need help. Always keep record. Keep name of the person you spoke with, what day you spoke with them, what did you say, what did they say, because it could always benefit you in the long run if there was a mistake or it was a misunderstanding. And always be persistent. Always call. We are open, like for example, Soncos is open from 8 o'clock, from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. And you can always give us a call once a week. I always tell my members, you apply for an extension, make sure you call next Friday. Today is Friday, make sure you call next Friday to see if there's any update. Sometimes creditors need more information and we call you guys, but sometimes people think it's a scam or it comes as scam likely. So it's always very, very important that you persist and that you call back and say, hey, what's going on with my extension? Did you get anything back? Is there any updates? Is there anything else I can offer you? I have more information. Those type of things will also help in the long run for your creditors. Handling house payments. So mortgages is one of them. Deep in lien of foreclosure. If you don't pay, the foreclosure is very, very something that could really happen. It depends on each bank. Foreclosure means that we will sell your home. The bank will sell the home. Short sell, refinance, repayment plans, and modifications. So those are things that could happen with a mortgage. Short sell and refinancing. Refinancing, it's like I said earlier before, if your home has equity, you can refinance. It could lower your payment. It could also make your payment higher depending on the interest. So that's something that is very, very important to look into before doing it. Make sure your interest is something that benefits you and it's not something that you just jump into from just being desperate, being so scared of losing your home, being worried that it's gonna just not have a home for your kids because sometimes the refinance can higher your payments. There's repayment plans. Repayment plans sometimes could be like an extension depending on the mortgage. Sometimes they can modify it, which it could be, let's say you got 3 months for no mortgage. They could put it at the back at the end of the loan and extend your loan for 3 months more. That's something that some mortgages also offer. Every bank is different. Not everybody offers the same things, but they do have those type of services. It's just a different type of service for each bank. For rent, you can speak with your rent. Sometimes they can try to reduce your rent. You can tell them, hey, right now I can only afford this. This is what's going on. Sometimes it is something that is possible. It might be only for a time frame, but it is possible whenever you communicate with them. You can do a repayment plan depending on the company, if it's a company or if it's a person. You can leave, but that may be a hook for you to rent if you have a lease. So with leaving a rent, it could be very, very depending on your lease, to be honest, because if you break your lease, that could affect you. It can affect you from getting another home, renting somewhere else. It's something that people really look into. This is more into whenever you rent from a person instead of an agency, because sometimes it could affect your record and it could affect your credit. Handling car loans, whenever you're in debt, communicating with your creditors, you can do a repayment plan. What this means is, let's say you're past due 60 days for $2,000, you can try to do a payment arrangement with them. Most of the times, it's something that we try to really do because cars do go to repo. For example, in us, we go to repo after 60 days. If we try to avoid that as much as possible, because just like you, we don't want you to lose your car. We don't want to lose that one loan. It is something that gets sold in auction for less of a price. And let's say if you owe 13,000, they only sell it for 10,000, that 3,000 is still going to be responsible for that member, at least for us. You can try to do a loan extension. We offer 90 days of extension. It is an application. It's not something that is approved right away, but if you give them details and you let them know what's going on, you can this is the first thing I encourage people to do. It will help you a lot whenever you do 90 days. It's 3 months for you to be able to get back on your feet, for you to be able to find that job, for you to be able to get caught up with other loans, to save up. It really helps. Refinancing is another option. This is something that I tend to offer at the end because loans, depending on your interest, it could be a higher payment. So, like right now, we all know interests are very high. If you refinance a vehicle, let's say you had it for 2 years, it went down $2,000, but your interest rate is a 2%. Now the interest rate is a 7%, and you, even though you're financing less, 2000 less, it could be a higher payment or the same amount because of the interest. So that's something that you can always do, but I always ask my members to very, very verify that the interest will be in a good interest and that the payment will benefit you. Because if it doesn't, it's not something, the situation sometimes is not a permanent situation. Sometimes it's just a financial hardship that is within the time frame. You can also sell your vehicle whenever you're having hardship. You can sell it to a person, you can sell it to a dealership. I sometimes tell members to go like to Carvana or CarMax, those places to where they can value it and see how much they can sell it. But keep in mind, if you sell your vehicle, you won't have a car if it's the only car that you have. Then my last resort would be volunteer repossession. That is when you return your vehicle to Suncoast. It is a voluntary repossession, so it does go to your credit as a repossession. This is something that I really, really say last if it's the last option because it does affect your credit. It stays on your credit. It is a debt still. If we sell that car for 10,000 and that car was 20,000, you'll still have $10,000 that you can try to pay back. But if you get another car, it'll be paying two type of loans, and it's something that does affect your credit and people look to whenever you're buying a home or you're purchasing another vehicle. Handling utilities. So whenever you're past due or you're having a hardship and your utilities are going behind, like your light, your water, your heat, if you pay heat, any type of utilities that you have, like your car, your phone payment, I'm sorry, you can cancel for non-essential utilities. You can cancel those things that you don't really need. You can do a repayment plan for light. For like your light, you can always apply for a repayment plan with them. For the water, you can always do it too. As long as you can communicate with them, you can always try to find a type of repayment plan. Sometimes it might be a little bit less than what you pay, and it'll be past due for a little bit, but it can always benefit you, and you can let them know that you're really trying. And then you can always do payment assistance programs. Every company is different. When it comes to utilities, it's really up to them and their policies. Personally, I don't know much about them, but I do know that like light services do offer them as well as phone services do. So always ask for payment assistance programs because it is something that will at least have one type of resort for you. Instead of being past due and having more late fees, having your services canceled, your light turned off, you can always talk to them and try to see if they can give you any type of assistance. Handling your insurance. Whenever you are with your auto insurance and you're past due for your auto, it's an increased deduction. So you can increase your deductibles. Um, Typically, depending on your auto, there has to be an amount that you have to have set. It's really based on your financial institution that finances the vehicle, but sometimes you can always increase it. Like let's say 10, instead of being a deductible of 1,000, you can try to do 3,000. That might lower your payment by a few dollars, but it always have to be within your credit, your financial institution's policies. Because I know sometimes some do need to have a specific amount of deductible for it to qualify as an active insurance. Or you can switch liability only coverage instead of full coverage, which you for some cars at least you need full coverage on your vehicles whenever they're financed. But let's say you have a paid off car, you can try to do liability only coverage. That is going to be usually the cheapest because it only has liability. It doesn't cover nothing else. It doesn't cover the other person, it doesn't cover injuries. So it does have only a specific coverage, but it is something that saves you a lot of money. I personally done it in the past, and it does have a difference. But again, it has to be whenever it's a paid off vehicle or if the financial institution lets you do it, because sometimes not everybody lets you. Life insurance, use cash value to make payments, switch the term policy to a longer term policy, and reduce the coverage. This is something that you can always do if you have life insurance coverage. Um, I personally don't know much about it because I don't do it, but I do know that Suncoast offers it in our insurance department, and they do have people that can really inform you. And if you have it with another company, you can always contact them about reducing your coverage or switching the term. Sometimes extending the term might reduce the amount, as well as reducing the coverage itself. It might lower it down a few cents or a few dollars. Health insurance, Medicaid, state health insurance, there are type of insurances too that you don't have to sometimes pay. Um, I'm sorry, catastrophic. I am so sorry. Catastrophic medical insurance. Those are insurances that you can look into that don't have like a high amount of payments. I know Medicaid, you don't have to sometimes pay for it depending on your job. Also, it does need to do with your income. So I will always speak to an insurance expert with this because there is times you can do it based on your annual income. I know if you make an X amount of money, you do have to pay insurance. Um, you can also try to see about your coverages. You can change them and it will lower it. Keep in mind that it will also change the benefits, such as like paying co-pays or what it will cover for a medical emergency. Whenever you go to a medical full emergency office, it could also change the coverage on that. So make sure you speak to a professional on that because those things are very important when it comes to your health. And whenever you go to emergency or if you have any health issues, it could always affect who you go to or how much you pay as a copay. Handling unsecured debt. So this is unsecured debts are your credit cards, personal loans, or line of credits, or store cards. For example, let's say whenever you have a line of credit, that is something that is unsecured debt, as well as like a Walmart card or a Sam's Club card. I believe they also have a credit card. Those are unsecured. They have hardship programs, such as temporarily programs, as long as lower payments and lower interest rates. Sometimes they are able to do that for you. Those are not such common, but they do have those type of services for you guys. I know for credit card stores, store credit cards, they offer a lot of programs. In the past, I have been able to use them, and they do have a few that will lower your payments as well as your interest rates. Sometimes it does require a credit pool, um, depending on the company and depending on the loan or the credit card. But you are able to ask for hardship programs, and they also offer them for you. It might not be something that will be forever. It could be something as such as short term, at 6 months, maybe 3 months, depending on what they offer. But you can always look into them, not just ignore them. Trust me, these cards can add up, and then it will not benefit you in the future. Handling student loans, for forbearance and deferments, temporary suspending of payments. So whenever you have your student loans, if you have a debt, if you're not able to keep up with them, you can do any type of temporary suspension of payments. I do know that also does interest rate. My apologies. My apologies. You can always make sure you contact them because they can do a temporary suspension of payments, but sometimes the interest still accumulates throughout the time frame when you're doing it. So let's say you do temporarily a year, that year can also have the interest rate. Sometimes that interest rate could be a lot higher than what it usually used to be. Under alternative payment plans, repayment plans, you can ask for consolidation. You can do a loan to consolidate all your student loans. If you have one student loan with an X company and Y company, you can do one loan to do a consolidation with both of them. Sometimes that can lower the payment, and sometimes that can lower the interest rate, because remember, you're paying two different type of loan, two type of interest, two type of payments. Reasonable and affordable repayment plans if in default. You can ask for it. Again, it's something that a lot of people do offer if you ask. I always tell my members to really, really tell them the hardship and be honest, because student loans are very, very important for us whenever you have a career, such as it could be medical, it could be law, it could be anything. Student loans, it's something that you want to always be on top of as well, just because we want to be, be able to pay them back. Mhm. Handling child support and alimony. If informing court order in place, must go back to court and request a change in payment amount. So whenever you're going through child support, you can go to court and order a payment amount change if you are an informed court order placed. So as if it's a formal court order, you can try to see if you can reduce that payment. You can modify or not I am so sorry. Reto, retroactive. My apologies. You can always contact the court and see if you can do a different amount with your alimony and your child support. You can let them know what's going on. Sometimes child support is based, as well as alimony, based on your income. If you had a significant amount of income, you can try to see if court can reduce that amount, but always try to go to the court and see what you can do instead of falling behind, because that is something that can be taken away from your wages itself, and it could be affecting your pay, like your paycheck as well. Handling taxes. File if you not have done so yet. Always try to file your taxes within the time frame. This year, I believe it's April 18th. It's something that you should always do just so you don't fall back with the IRS. I personally do not like to mess with the IRS because they come for everybody, and it's very, very, very serious. It's something that we try to always recommend doing. You can always do repayment plans with them, and if you try to work out anything with them, it'll most likely be something that they'll really do. You don't want to fall back in taxes that you then have 3 years of taxes that you have to pay back thousands and thousands of dollars. It's very important. Even when buying a home, you do need taxes done. So if you fall back, that can stop you from doing that, getting your dream home. And usually it's very risky. Personally, I'm so scared of the IRS, so I try not to mess with it at all. Um, let's see. You have to know your rights. So FBCPA prohibits collectors agencies from calling you multiple times a day. I cannot personally call my members more than once a day. That is harassment. That is not okay. I cannot call you, say, hey, were you paying your credit card? This is due. Hey, I called you this morning. You said you're going to pay at 7 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. You haven't paid yet. Are you paying anytime soon? That is harassment. You need to know your laws and know that you cannot be called more than once a day or any inconvenient times. If you tell us, hey, I cannot speak right now, I'm at work, that person needs to not call you back again. You're at work. Contacting you at work, if you tell them not to, you can always tell them, hey, I'm at work. Don't call me, please. If they call you again, you need to know your rights. That's not something that should be done. Letting a third party know that they're trying to collect debt from you. Using false threats, obscenities, rhetorical slur, and insults. So anytime any type of collector, any type of agency calls you, threaten you, trying to tell you that you're insulting you, any type of offensive things, you should know your rights. That is not okay. You can always report it. You can always call the company. You can always ask for a manager and let them know what's going on because that is your right. We're here to try to get our money, but we're also here to help you. We're not trying to scare you, nor make you fear us, nor make you feel uncomfortable or feel stressed. It's something that is very important, especially from Suncoast Credit Union. We try to help you guys. We're not trying to just collect and make you guys feel like you need to pay or you're going to go to, let's say, just for example, jail or anything else. You're a bad person because you're not paying. No, we're trying to help you. So always make sure you know your rights. Rebuild your credit. Credit is something that does get affected whenever you're going through a hardship. However, you are able to rebuild it with time. May suffer from credit reporting damage if unable to pay your bills, but less important than others. So let's say you are suffering from paying your mortgage. Your mortgage is the most important thing to pay, your car loan. Those type of things are very, very important when it comes to your credit because they're a big, big amount of debt that you have. It's not a $10,000 loan, it's hundreds, thousands of dollar loan. So it is something that affects your credit. Credit can be rebuilt in the future by paying on time, keeping your balance low, and getting new credit. What this means, if you pay on time, let's say you had a bad month, you have 3 months that were bad, but if you keep paying on time within time frame, you'll be able to rebuild that credit. It will take time. It's not something that happens from today to tomorrow, but it is possible. Always paying on time is the main thing that really helps in keeping that balance low. We always try to tell our members that 30% of your credit card use is good. That keeps your balance at a lower rate than 50%, and it helps your credit as well. Getting new credit, if you don't have any, let's say you only have one credit card, if you get that one other credit card, it might help your credit. Now, don't think that getting 20 credit cards will be good because it's also not good. You have to be very mindful. And when you're getting new credit, be able to sustain that credit. Sometimes they offer you, like, let's say Capital One offers you a credit card. Maybe that one credit card will help you if you only have one. But if you get three credit cards at the same time, that sometimes might affect your credit as well. Starting to save. Having savings make handling financial problems easier. So when it comes to savings, typically people try to save for the future, but I always suggest having a savings for your expenses. When you have 3 to 6 months worth of essential living expenses, it helps you. Let's say if you lose your job, you have, let's say your expenses of the month are $1,000 and you put in your savings account, let's say $6,000. That gives you 6 months to be able to just pay that $1,000 of living expenses. Mortgage, let's say you have, nowadays it's not, but let's say your mortgage, your car loan, and groceries. Those three things go into that savings account for 6 months. That's going to help you if you ever lose your job, or if you have if you have two jobs, your spouse has a job and you have a job, let's say your job loses that job, you'll be able to use that savings account. When financial crisis is over, you can start setting aside whatever you can and make it automated process. What that means is you can put something on auto pay. Let's say your husband got a job again and he's making the same thing or $100 more. You can put $100 in auto pay every month to go, or every 2 weeks to go to that savings account to put back what you used. It's something that can take time, obviously, because we're using $1,000 every month, aside from just getting to $200 a month. But it is something that can help you in the long run if it ever happens again. Are there any questions?
No questions so far.
Well, oh, I said that so fast. Lord Jesus, I'm done. Do you guys want to ask any questions? I spoke so fast.
All right. Are there any questions? Well, thank you so much,
You're
Janeshla. Really do
welcome.
appreciate it. Did a phenomenal job. No questions. So with
That's
that,
good.
we just really appreciate your partnership with us. And for all of you, please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and it will be uploaded by the end of this week. Thank you all.
Yay. Have a good one, guys. And
You.
if anything, just give us a call. Bye.
Bye.